It's looking like a Porsche again. We fitted both rear quarters and done a whole load of other metalwork, so check out the video. So we had the rear quarter blasted again. It's shown a load of repairs that need doing along the bottom lip and also the rear light housing. With the bottom lip repaired, I then used a spot welder to reattach the bumper bracket. Once this was done, I had a look at the light housing, but unfortunately it wasn't worth saving, so I ordered a new light housing from Porsche that we could spot weld in. Okay, so the rear quarters are back off. We've prepped up all inside these rear quarter panels, just put some epoxy primer on the bare metal areas, obviously where we've had to spot weld the rear seat floor in, all the kidney bowls and areas like that were all bare metal. So they've got a good coat of epoxy primer now. I'm going to seal them up and put some Raptor on them. And then in here, we've just puffed a bit of epoxy over all of the other bare metal areas. So it's all protected now. Quickly show you the other side. All up in the engine bay's all been done. And this side as well. So the reason we're going to put Raptor on some of these areas now is that it's really difficult to seal up in here and get Raptor in there and up there when the quarter panel's on. So it's a good idea to do those areas now while we can get to them, and then we'll scotch it all down when we come to paint the underside and apply a nice even coat of Raptor over the whole lot. So the next job was to prep both rear quarters for welding onto the car. Because this quarter panel had been blasted, we gave it a good coat of epoxy primer and then used weld through primer on all the edges that would be welded together. So here I'm just using a Scotch pad to prep all of the inner wheel arch where I want to apply Raptor. So here I'm just washing seam sealer into all of the seams to make sure moisture can't get in there at a later date. This will stop it rusting further down the line, but also it would be really tricky to do this with the quarter panel fitted, so this is why I'm doing it now. Right, time to apply some Raptor. I've thinned it down and I'm using a spray gun to apply it so it gives it more of a smooth finish. We're also using black, but when we come to do the car on all the underside, we may well use the body colour, but that's up to the client at a later date. Okay, so we've now got both rear quarters on and the engine lid on, just to get it all gapped up and make sure we're going to weld these quarters on in the right place. So yeah, there's a nice gap down there, overhangs slightly here, but the gap across the top is actually pretty nice, so I'm happy with where that is. We've got our window template in this side because we're actually replacing quite a bit of that, and then moving around to the other side. The rear quarter, again, pretty decent gap down the side, overhanging slightly there, so I think we'll probably reshape the corner of the engine lid. We'll put back where the original cut was made and all ready to weld in. So yeah, let's get this welded in. So the metalwork sucked in slightly where I welded this in. So I'm just using a pin puller to pull it back out, just to make sure that it sits flush. And that's this quarter panel finished. Last thing I need to do is weld in the new light housing at the back. Right, onto the other side. This fits exactly the same as the near side, but I'm using a template to make sure that the window aperture remains the same because I'm using a little bit more of the replacement panel. Okay, so that is this quarter finished now. It's all welded on, gapped up to the door, spot welded round here, and then we let this one in through here. Spot welded down the back. So that just leaves us with this window aperture to do, because someone's had to go at it before. And then that's the back end finished. So I've just removed this repair panel that's been welded in before, and we found a bit of grot in here that we're going to have to repair before we can put the new one in place. I also had to add some material to the engine lid at the top just to get it to gap up absolutely perfectly. I welded down the seam and then ground it back to an even gap. Next thing to address was this boot lid where it overhangs. I've had it before with replacement boot lids, it just seems to be made ever so slightly too long. Okay, so there we go. We've got this shape flowing nicely both sides. And then we've got good gaps all the way around. Done. Okay, so it's taken ages, but we finally got our bonnet gapped up. At one point, the edge of the bonnet this side was overlapping the wing, so we've had to push the wing, or the inner wing really, over by a fair amount, about 5 mil. But yeah, we finally got a good gap. It's fitting nicely across the top, right the way along. So yeah, now we've got the front valance all fitted, and it's all latching nicely. We're all prepped, ready for welding. So yeah, good to go. Let's weld it in. Okay, so next up, I want to address this join between the rear quarter and the sill. From factory, this whole join is lead loaded and smooth. So yeah, that's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to re-lead it and get it looking like factory. So I start by cleaning the area thoroughly, and then use a tinning compound to tin the area where I want to put the lead. Once this is done, I clean it again with thinners and then start applying the lead. You want the lead to be the consistency of peanut butter. You don't want it to get too hot so it runs off the panel. So there we go, that's that join all smooth with lead, just as they did it back in the factory. And the door shuts lovely. Right then, same process on the near side sill. Okay, so I've got this repair panel tacked in now. As you can see, it's all gapped up nicely with the boot lid. I've got a couple of little bits to make here just to make it finish off nicely. But yeah, really happy with where that is now, so we can weld it in. And there we go, that's the rear window aperture repaired now. We can now fit the boot lid again. Well, as always, I hope you enjoyed the video, and yeah, thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe, and check back in a couple of weeks so I will be fitting the engine and all the suspension, getting it rolling, and hopefully it'll be going off for air ride. See ya!